Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're doing something really fun. We're going to dive deep into the nuts and bolts of language and storytelling. Instead of just passively reading, we're going to treat it like a real investigation, an act of active decoding, because every author leaves behind a trail of clues, and as readers, it's our job to piece them all together. Today, we're treating every single word as a piece of evidence, uncovering those secrets that are usually hidden right in plain sight. So grab your metaphorical magnifying glasses, because you're about to become a story detective. Okay, let's take a quick look at our investigation board for today. First up, the elements of story. Then we're decoding with context clues. After that, literal versus hidden meanings. And finally, we'll wrap it all up with the final case. So, let's jump right into Section 1, the elements of story. These are essentially the foundations of any narrative. We've got to start with our primary suspects, right? The characters. A character is simply the person, or maybe an animal, in the story. It's the who of our mystery. For example, look at this piece of evidence. Rena fed the hungry birds every morning. If we just ask ourselves who is actually doing the action here, it's crystal clear. Rena is our character. Identifying the character is literally step one because it anchors everything else that happens. Okay, next up is the scene of the crime, or the setting. This tells us both where and when the story is happening, because context is everything. Imagine reading something like, last Saturday afternoon, the family enjoyed swimming at the beach. The where is the beach, and the when is last Saturday afternoon. Or picture kids building sandcastles early in the morning. Establishing that setting just gives the whole story a physical and temporal reality. And this brilliantly illustrates how those characters and settings actually move through time, which is the plot. A plot isn't just random stuff happening. It's a strict sequence of events. You have a beginning, which usually introduces a problem, then you work through the middle, and finally wrap it up at the ending. Check out this mini-story. Carlo planted a mango seed. That's our beginning. But the soil was dry. There's our problem. So he watered it every day. That's the middle action. And finally, it produced sweet mangoes. The ending. Notice how every step just logically follows the last one to push the story forward? All right, now it's your turn to play story detective. Check out this quick scenario. Ryan forgot to bring his umbrella. He got wet in the rain. His mother brought him a dry towel. As an investigator looking at this plot, which sentence introduces the actual problem here? Take a quick second to spot it. Got it? Yep, it's Ryan forgot his umbrella. That is the inciting incident. It happens right at the very beginning and creates the conflict that literally drives the rest of the plot. Because think about it. Without forgetting the umbrella, he doesn't get wet, and his mom doesn't need to grab a towel. The problem is the absolute engine of the story. And that brings us to the final big element here, the theme. This is basically the big lesson or message the author wants you to walk away with. Let's say we read a story where a character named Ella practices reading every single night, and eventually she becomes the best reader in her entire class. The plot is just about Ella reading, sure. But the theme? That is universal. Practice helps people improve. It's the deeper, real-world takeaway that you can actually apply to your own life. Moving right along to Section 2, decoding with context clues. This is all about how we figure out unknown words. So sometimes authors don't just hand us all the answers, right? We have to figure things out on the fly. Let's look at this sentence. The weather became chilly, so everyone wore jackets. If you had literally never seen the word chilly before in your life, what surrounding clues in that sentence would help you figure out what it means? The answer is cold. And how do we know that? Well, the context clue is, so everyone wore jackets. I mean, people don't exactly throw on winter coats when it's hot out. By just analyzing what the characters are doing in the sentence, we totally deduce what that unfamiliar word means. That is the magic of context clues. Another absolutely crucial tool for us is the synonym. Think of synonyms kind of like linguistic fingerprints. They look a bit different on the surface, but they point to the exact same identity. A synonym is just a word that means the same or nearly the same as another word. Like if an old tree is described as massive, a perfect synonym is huge. Or if a little boy in a bad storm is frightened, we know for sure he's afraid. Authors use these all the time to add some flavor without actually changing the core meaning. Let's test those detective skills one more time. Here's your piece of evidence. Our classroom is spotless after cleaning. Based on the clues right there in that sentence, what's the best synonym for spotless? Does it mean dirty, clean, crowded, or small? It means clean. The phrase after cleaning points right to it.
You wouldn't clean a room and suddenly it's dirty, crowded, or small, right? The context just completely unlocks the right synonym for us. All right, let's transition into Section 3, literal versus hidden meanings, or as it's often called, literal versus figurative.
So, words actually often have two totally different layers of meaning. First, you've got the denotative meaning. That's the literal, strictly by the dictionary definition. For example, the lion lives in the forest. Here, lion literally just means a large wild cat. But then we have the connotative meaning. This is the suggested, figurative, or even emotional layer. Look at this sentence. My father is a lion because he is brave. Now, obviously the dad isn't an actual wild animal covered in fur. The author is using the suggested qualities of a lion, courage, strength, protection, to describe a human being.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how it lays out the evidence for a bunch of different words. Take angel. Denotatively, it's a heavenly being, but connotatively, it's just a really sweet, kind person. Or star, literally a ball of gas in space, but figuratively, a famous celebrity. Ice is frozen water, but if someone has an ice personality, they're super cold and unfriendly. Diamond is a precious stone, but it also means someone incredibly valuable to you. And sunshine is literal light from the sun, but it can totally represent that one person who just brings boundless happiness into a room. Okay, let's do a final contextual challenge to see if you can spot the disguise. If I say, the owl sat quietly on the tree, that's denotative. It's an actual bird doing bird things. But what if I give you this sentence? Our principal is an owl because she is very wise. Is the word owl being used for its denotative or connotative meaning here?
It's absolutely connotative. I mean, the principal hasn't suddenly sprouted feathers and a beak, right? This sentence is relying entirely on that hidden, suggested meaning of the owl, which culturally represents wisdom. Being able to spot whether an author is being literal or figurative is a massive game changer for understanding what they're really trying to say. Which brings us to our wrap-up. Section 4, the final case. Let's review the evidence. So, just to do a quick review of our case files today, your foundational clues are always the character, the setting, the plot, and the theme. But now, as a full-fledged detective, you actually hold the mental keys to decode them. You know how to use context clues, you can find synonyms, and you can easily spot the difference between a literal, denotative meaning and a hidden, connotative one. You essentially have a perfect snapshot of all the storytelling tools you need to truly understand a text. You guys have absolutely cracked the code today. But remember, every single time you open a book or pull up an article, a brand new mystery starts. So now that you have all the analytical tools of a story detective, what hidden meanings, secret themes, and clever disguises are you going to uncover in the very next story you read? Keep those eyes peeled, always trust the clues, and never stop investigating. Thanks for hanging out with me for this explainer, and happy reading.